This is a little arrangement of Auld Lang Syne, kind of jazzed up, and for the holidays. And I thought we'd kind of have a little mini lesson, a lot of kind of rich chords. I wanted to kind of show you a little bit of what went into the thinking of making this particular arrangement. I really want to kind of contrast what a classical sound sounds like and kind of the magic of jazz. Jazz for me is very much like cooking with lots of spices. Classical music, or kind of basic harmony, is like working with your basic ingredients. Meat, potatoes, but there's some basic seasonings, going to be salt and pepper. But with jazz, I can take all those ingredients and spice them up in new and interesting ways. And I thought it'd be kind of fun to have a mini lesson on kind of the difference between a standard approach to this time-old classic song sung on New Year's Day, and kind of an overview of what kind of goes into a jazz arrangement. What's the thinking behind coming up with different chords, different progressions? So let's take a quick look. First, I want to show you kind of the standard version. The standard version sounds like this. It's pretty simple, yeah? A lot of very basic chords. And with these chord progressions, we're basically going a lot of ones, a lot of fives, a couple of occasional fours, maybe even a 6 chord to progress to a 4, then to a 5, then to a 1. Okay, if you don't know what that means, no worries. But anyway, that's kind of the standard version. Now let's take a quick look at the jazzed up version, and I want to show you how I spice up these chords. Now, the sheet music for this will be available in my forum, so you want to take a look at the forum, general questions, and look for the subheading or the subtopic entitled sheet music. And I'll put my arrangement of this there. If you want to work on it some more, feel free to post a video in the other student submission section, and I'd be happy to help you work through it. I have all the chords, all the chord charts kind of written out, but I also have the chords, the notation itself written out too. It's a little complicated, so if you're a first-time player, maybe a little overwhelming, but maybe if you see how the chords are constructed as I explained them and kind of their function musically, maybe it'll inspire you to give this a go. If you've never played, give it a try. So let's switch over to the overhead cam real quick. So our first chord really kind of starts off in the standard version. By the way, we're in F major. And F major means we start on an F, and we use a B flat as part of this scale. So every B is going to be normally naturally flatted. Now, normally, we have this opening starting with a C major, with this opening melody here. Now the way I change it up is instead of playing a C major, I kind of spice it up with this, instead of a regular C major chord, which is comprised of 1, the 3rd, and the 5th note of that scale, I kind of augment the 5th here, and I give a little spice with a little bit of this major 7. Now a quick word on understanding how chords are constructed. Your basic chord starts on using the notes of a given scale. Let's say we're in the key of C major. We start by counting the very first note as number 1. The second note of a chord will be the 3rd note, and then the 5th note of the scale will be the 3rd note of the chord. That's your basic C major scale, okay? Now, for a lot of classical music, that's the foundation, the building block of basic harmony. As we start getting into jazz and more advanced music, composers like to add more and more thirds on top of your basic thirds. You can see that this third has a third built on top of that. Composers like to keep going on. This would be a 7th chord, and then this would be a 9th chord, and this would be an 11th chord, 11 steps away from this note, and then 13, and then we start all over again. So all the possible jazz chords you're going to work with are going to be constructed of variations of the first, third, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13th tones. You can lower a 7th to give you this pitch. So a lot of different possibilities just by modifying those basic tones built from the first, second, for all the odd numbered values above the root pitch. So, as we said, here's the basic C major chord, and I kind of spiced it up by giving it a little bit more tension by raising this over here and giving it a little more spice here as well. So that's the very first chord of this arrangement. Now, in the standard arrangement, we have an F major chord, F, A, C, and I just give it a little bit of seasoning with this F6 chord. And the 6th is made of this note over here, which is 6 notes away from this note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a very simple way to modify a basic chord without changing its harmonic function. You can hear this wants to resolve. There's a lot of kind of tension in the chord, and here it's a lot more calm, even though you have a bit of spice here. And this augmented chord here with this F augmented 5, again, because of this quality, we have more tension, it wants to resolve itself, okay? Now here, normally it would go, but I decided to change. A lot of jazz involves substituting harmonies. So instead of going to a plain Jane C major chord, I wanted to substitute this for a B flat major 13. I could have gone with the G minor, but I like the spiciness of this. Now here's a kind of a plain Jane G7 chord. Now I could normally go with a C, kind of a C7 if I wanted, yeah? But C7 13, but here I wanted to give it a little bit more flavor with this note. You notice how sometimes these flavor notes give you more tension to go forward or to kind of want to resolve it. And again, I could have left it like this, but that could be fine, but this gives you a little more spice without changing the harmony too much. This would be the normal classical arrangement, okay, but giving it kind of a lowered 7th and a little bit of a kind of a progression here. Now I really love the way these chords sound. This is a 4th built on top of another 4th. 4th and the 4th away. This is kind of a C13 with no 5. I love how this kind of goes. Gives it a little more exotic flavor. An F6 here. And again, listen how that tension builds. We could have easily done this, but I wanted to leave more spice here. So instead of a G, kind of a G7 here, G minor 7, we give it more spice with this. Hear that difference? We could have gone to an F major, but instead, again, a little more using. So basically what I'm doing is I'm thinking of the melody notes. I'm thinking of all the different possibilities that it could have gone to. This would be a standard, kind of a standard way to end it, but isn't that nice? Yeah? So kind of this augmented 5th here, going into an F6. And again, you could end like this, but this is a 2nd. This is kind of cool here too. Isn't that nice? Or you could think of this as a 9th here, right? Now, we could easily go to B flat major to continue our melody, but why do that when you can give it a little more spice by making it a B flat major 7? Okay, so we have these 2 7th chords. One's a major 7th, one's a minor 7th. We could have gone here, but here, instead of that, I wanted to give it a little more spice between those 2 notes. So you really want to resolve it. Normally we could do that, but isn't that cool? Yeah? And again, I love these augmented kind of intervals. This is a diminished chord. Instead of that, gives you a little more darker flavor, a little more spice over here. We could have simply gone to a C7 with a 9th on top, but again, when you augment it, it gives you more pull to go to the next chord. Again, jazz likes to avoid plain Jane chords like this. Gives it much more flavor, doesn't it? Now, what I love too about jazz, it does a lot of things with inner voice leadings. Now, we could have very simply ended it like a traditional song would have done it, but the way I like to feel this, I want to do something special on this one. Ooh, another diminished, a B diminished chord with a kind of a minor ninth there. Isn't that cool? And then, instead of this, I'm thinking of this bass note. I love this. You hear this little transition here? A lot of jazzes, listening to different voice leading possibilities. Cool? I could have easily gone to here, but where's the fun in that? Hear that E flat colors that F major chord? You could have done this, but gives it a little more spice there. And jazz never likes to return to the same harmony too frequently, right? So I decided to spice. Woo! That's a harmony that really comes out of left field, huh? I could have simply done this, but I thought, I want something magical in that chord. So I tried, in this instance, I tried to go for something as far away from G minor. Isn't that cool? But the problem is that this D flat major harmony contrasts with the next note in the melody. So the way I got around it was to give it a little bit of a grace note to make it sound like it's initially part of this and then immediately pulled away. See, isn't that cool how that works? You have your cake and eat it too. Here's a G minor 11. Again, we could have done this, but this harmony, that sounds so nice, doesn't it? That sounds kind of boring, so let's spice it up with that G sharp. And again, we could have simply ended it like this, but why do that when you can add a little sixth flavor on top of that F? See how these color notes and these augmented intervals give a lot more spice. And now with the way I end it, you can just kind of take the notes of the chord and then give it a little bit of a ninth flavor or a second flavor. Isn't that cool? So take the same chord and just change it to that. So it gives it a kind of a nice major seventh kind of a feel. Isn't that cool? So that's kind of my look at how the chords work in this particular arrangement. I hope you enjoyed that quick little analysis. And again, the sheet music will be up. If you want to work on it, let me know, and I'll help you through it. Happy New Year, everybody. I look forward to helping you just enjoy the piano, play the songs that you've always dreamed of, go through the curriculum, or suggest some songs of your own with the video exchange system we have here on the site. It's an amazing tool, an amazing resource. I want to encourage as many of you as possible, shoot some videos. I know you're shy, so let's make this the year that you all get over your shyness and send me your videos so that I can help you directly and personally. Have a wonderful, blessed, happy, healthy, and peaceful New Year.